Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the final panel of PaizoCon 2023. Ask the Paizo GMs, I think, part 2. But we're in at the first ones. We're all new here. My name is Jason Keeley. I'm a senior developer over on the Pathfinder rules and lore team, and we'll be sort of hopefully taking your questions in the Twitch chat and giving you some wise sage advice. And speaking of wise and sage, I'm going to throw it over to Shay.
Wise and Sage. Okay, hi. I'm Shay Snow. I'm one of the Pathfinder Society developers. Here to tell you all about GMing things because I've been doing it a while. And Simone.
Hello, I'm Simone DeSalee. I am one of the senior editors at Paizo. I have only GM'd a little bit, mostly one-shots here and there throughout the years, and then I just started running Strength of Thousands a couple of months ago. So I have some experience from that side and a whole lot of experience reading and editing adventures. So we'll see what I have to offer.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be great. I guess I didn't give my other bona fides. I have been running and playing for a couple decades now. I have started with, not started, but at least I started Pathfinder with Council of Thieves, the very first 3.5. Sorry, it's the very first Pathfinder first edition adventure path. Run a couple of those. Obviously, I ran some stuff before that, and I run Pathfinder and a bunch of other stuff from time to time. So let's go to the Twitch chat and maybe get a question. Looks like Northdorf is asking us about how to submit artwork contributors to be an illustrator for Paizo.
I think Marissa is going to answer this one in the chat, it looks like.
That's fair. Okay.
Oops, yeah, because that's not so much a GMing question. So
it's not a GM question.
We're not the art team, yeah. Apologies.
But there is a process, and we'll let you know.
Yes. Yeah. The answer is forthcoming.
Yeah. While we're getting, we've got a question here from Divine Helene. Seems like PF2E has a lot of small bonuses. What's the easiest way for players and GMs to track those when playing?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Do you have any insights?
I have been GMing in Foundry, one of the virtual tabletop options, and so that does a lot of it for you. My friends are in a couple of different states and time zones, and so we were playing online anyway. And I don't know, I assume the other VTTs are similar, but you can add those bonuses and have Foundry do it all for you, which is very easy. Otherwise, I just write really chicken scratch notes all over my character sheet when I'm in person, which has me usually forgetting what's going on. So that's why I like the VTT setup better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Shay, what do you think?
When it comes to monsters and things and their small little bonuses, what I do with that is I automatically calculate those bonuses out beforehand, and I just have them written down to the side. So it's such and such is a shield, so I got to remember it's a +2 when the shield is raised, and then all things like that. When it comes to player bonuses and things like that, I'm a lot like Simone, where I'll write it down in a side thing. When I'm usually a player, I usually have a journal with me, so I'm just writing down stuff all the time. So
it's good. That's good. I think it's important to sort of enlist the entire group's help to get all of this stuff done. Obviously, as a GM, you're going to want to keep track of the monster stuff, but for the players' bonuses, hopefully they're keeping track of their own. And just come right out and say it, hey, help! Try to remember if you've got a +1 from this or +1 from that. I've seen people do this, something from a bard bonus, right? To write that down on a tinted sheet of paper and put that in front of them, sort of, if you're playing, on a table, that'll help everyone kind of see it and remember it, and just sort of I know people always who are playing those characters who are giving out those bonuses, don't forget, I got +1 for me, +1 for me. So again, when the table all chips in, it really isn't really that tricky. And also, like Simone says, that those VTTs help a lot. I got to tell you.
Yeah. Power of technology.
The power of technology is grand, and it's bringing us all closer together. Let's go to the next question. Joe Adultman. Hi, Joe. What are some things can players do to help GMs run a game that's more fun for everyone?
That's a good question.
Question.
Off the top of my head, I feel like second edition in particular encourages teamwork. So players can do a lot of tactical planning together and kind of remembering what each other's strengths are and trying to build off of those, especially in combat, but not only in combat, to make things feel more cohesive and more exciting. That would be the first thing that I can think of.
I think the most helpful thing can be like just buy into the story. Don't be like, oh, okay, I see that this is like a mystery, like dungeon crawl thing. I'm gonna go buy an airship and like go hang out with my other buddies across the world. Like, buy into the story. Like, your GM has crafted something for you. Just like take part in it. Have fun with it. The more that you buy into it, the more that your fellow players will buy into it. It's just kind of it cascades on itself.
Yes, good one.
Great.
I feel
point,
like
great point.
not keeping mega secrets is a big one too. Like, we all like to have, character reveals and our like mysterious backstory that's going to be revealed later. That's all awesome. But I think if you're holding things too close to the chest, it's hard for the other characters, the other PCs, to get to know yours and to start to interact with your personality. I've seen people struggle with that balance before. And so I think that's one thing to keep an eye on is like, you can have mysteries and you can have secrets, but that can hinder team cohesion if you don't like give a little bit of your personality or your interests away as a character.
Yes, yeah. Like you said, Simone, like it's a group. You're playing as a group, and teamwork is very important. Act like it. And Shay's note on buying it. I love when players are like, "What's the plot hook?" I bite on it full and with no questions asked. We're supposed to do this thing. I do it. I've sort of from a personal anecdote. There was a point, way or very much earlier on. I'm a big proponent of sort of like if you don't know if you're not unsure of something, ask the group. What do you think? Talk to the group. If you're GM or your player, be like, this is about to happen, or I need like 5 minutes to digest this or think of the next thing or whatever. There was a game I was playing, and my character was like, I need a little bit of help figuring out why my character was going to come on this riverboat with you or whatever it was. And everyone was like, what about this? What about this? I was like, they took it, and that took like 3 or 4 minutes tops, and helped me buy into something, and I think helped everyone sort of like get cohesive and move on and get to the fun parts of the adventures.
Yeah, I had a similar thing in Strength of Thousands where somebody was going to be joining like a month or so after we started, and we all kind of like brainstormed like, okay, why is she a transfer student? Like, what was her delay in getting here, and like how can we like kind of seamlessly get her into it? So yeah, everybody like kind of stepping out of the story and brainstorming together like made it a smoother experience.
Exactly. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Army, Navy, Jedi. I almost read that in like the weirdest possible way until I noticed it was 3 fairly normal words. As a GM, if there are player shenanigans and they miss a story encounter, do you move the encounter to the location or steer the group back on track? Either one of you want to have any thoughts on that?
Move the encounter to the new location.
Yeah.
I think I think I lean that way too. I think it depends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's a reason why your players are like, I don't want to go there, so.
Right. Yeah, if they're just sort of not going to this place because they skip something or whatever, find out why that is an important encounter. If it's not important, you can also just forget about it, right? If it's just some rats and whatever. But if it's an important story thing, find out why that, distill what's important about it. Is it because NPC gives a impassioned confession about a murder or something like that? Sorry, I just came from the mysteries panel, so I'm going to be thinking about murder mysteries and stuff like that. But and then just move it to the place where they currently are. Yeah, that one's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do milestone leveling, so like I don't care if you miss it doesn't matter in my games. But yeah, I think you're empowered to tell the story you want. So if you need to move something around and it makes sense, great. Do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
let's move on to wisdom check videos. Question: if a player gains a custom ability, how do you ensure it's balanced with everyone else's abilities? Or largely, what do you do to keep balance in the group? Disallow anything outside of core PIF2. I believe that's how that's pronounced. PIF2.
I don't
I
worry too
mean,
much about it. Sorry, Shay, go ahead. You go first.
no. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't really worry about much of that either. I mean, I let players, like in my homebrew game that just recently finished. We started out playing the Thaumaturge with the playtest before
Mm.
Dark Archive dropped, and everybody had the Thaumaturge stuff. So, like, obviously things changed. And what I noticed about partway through the storyline was that Thaumaturge is really powerful at a certain point. Like,
Mm.
just kind of like the way that like the no weakness thing happens and the esoteric lore happens and everything, which is great. I'm not super worried about it. But like at a certain point, it's like, well, how do you keep this balance so that everybody feels like the same level of power? I think it. I think we shouldn't be afraid of occasionally some characters feel a little bit stronger than other characters in situations. I think that sometimes it should make sense that, like, well, we were in Geb for a long period of time and the Thaumaturge was really killing it, but our Shadow Sorcerer, who does a lot of bleed damage, she was really struggling. Like,
Mm.
she, couldn't really, get a lot of her spells off and everything. But then we moved over and we had more fleshy opponents when we were in another country, and then suddenly, like, all of her spells were just, like, killing it. So I think
Mm.
I think it should be more acceptable that, like, sometimes some players are a little bit more stronger than other players. As for like things outside of like Pathfinder stuff, if I'm playing a Pathfinder game, I tend not to use a lot of third party products. But like there is, I'm never gonna play a game where it's like, oh, you can only use like the core rulebook or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
There's just there's a lot of sort of quote unquote core PF2 stuff that not first party stuff, right? Let's call it that you can kind of do just about nearly anything. But there's some great third party stuff out there that you can look at. Just sort of if you're the GM, someone's like, I brought this off of Pathfinder Infinite and I want to use it. Give it a quick once over. Give it a sniff test.
Yeah,
It's most likely going to be fine. And if it isn't, you can just sort of say like, let's sort of use it and be like, find out later that it doesn't quite work. Like I said, we're all in this to have fun. Have a chat just outside of the game. Be like, hey, this isn't working. Mind if we tweak this so it's like 1D less damage or something like that.
Exactly.
And generally, if you're coming to players with a with honesty and that kind of thing, everyone's going to get along.
yeah,
And if you're this comes down to sort of like I guess a core GM thing or just gaming thing is like if you're not playing with people you're having fun with, you shouldn't be playing with them, honestly. And I know people don't always have that opportunity or that chance to sort of get those core groups that are like your best buds. But I personally try to steer clear of those sort of situations when I can.
Yeah, I think I will say that Pathfinder Infinite is a great place to check out, and there are a lot of Paizo writers and freelancers and
Yeah.
staff who publish on Infinite. So there's a great chance that stuff you find there is going to be balanced and fit in your campaign. But yeah, exactly what Jason was saying. Like, give it a try if it sounds cool, and if in a couple of sessions you realize, hey, this isn't really as balanced as we thought it was, then you can modify as you go. Like it's your game, and you get to decide that together. So yeah, I say I tend to not worry about balance because the game is so tight already. You don't really need to. But if a player came to me like, "Hey, here's this cool third party thing," like, sure, let's see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. I'm a paper ninja. It says, how do you decide the degree your opponents use optimal tactics? Zombies are mindless, so random attacks and intellect humanoids are scheming. But what about in between? How do you deal with your tactics in a sort of fight, in a general combat?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I tend to go off personally. Um, when you're an editor, and Simone will be able to say this, it is pointed out, and a lot of Paizo people know this, but when I was an editor, this is where I learned this. At a certain, it's like things are considered sapient. Creatures are considered sapient if they have a -4 intelligence modifier or lower. So what I've been doing is basically if they have that -4 or lower for their intelligence modifier, I'm like, they're going to attack probably what's ever closest to them, whatever's been presented as the biggest threat. If it has a higher intelligence modifier than that, generally up until it gets into the plus section, I'm like, they're going to go after what they perceive as the biggest threat. Once you get into like the positive intelligence modifiers for me, I'm like, okay, they're a little bit more calculating. They're going to think about how the best to analyze the battlefield and how to go, and how to like get at who they think is going to be a problem in the future. So that's how I do it.
Mhm.
It's a lot of math. So maybe not math. It's a lot. It's a lot of like
It's a
taking
lot of
the
thinking.
numbers and being like, huh.
Yeah, no,
That's what I do.
that's great. That's great advice, Shay. Simone, do you
I
have
don't
any
have
thoughts
much.
on
I don't have much to add. I'm pretty
this?
much in the same place as Shay.
Yeah.
I'm. That's one of my weak areas as a GM because I'm like rooting for my players probably too much, and
Yeah.
so I also add in like
Same.
balancing. Okay, if they're close to death, like the style in my game specifically, which I know is not universal, is like yes, death is still an option, but like we're especially in Strength of Thousands, like you're at
Mhm.
school, like you're probably not in mortal danger all the time. And so I also kind of try to balance it a little bit more than maybe I need to about like who's under threat. But yeah, for the most part, I follow pretty much what Shay said also.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for those like smarter uh, uh enemies, there's a point where they don't want to die too. I kind of picture that as like, some people fight to the death, and it's but that does, I would try to vary that up, right? If it's just some random mooks or whatever, if they're close enough to having single digit hit points or really close to be died, they'll run away or give up, right? Like everyone doesn't have to fight to 0 hit points. I think that's one little add on that I can sort of give there. So it gives a little more, verisimilitude of like, oh, these are people, and so you can you don't have your players treating every enemy as just a sack of hit points. They're thinking about who these people are and what's going on. Anything else? You want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, it looks like the next one is asking about encouraging people to try out second edition from other systems. I mean, this is so personal. It's kind of tough to give a universal answer. Some people are attached to what they're familiar with, and you're not going to be able to talk them out of it. But I know the beginner box is a really great option for introducing people to running Pathfinder and playing Pathfinder 2e. Checking out some actual plays in the system and seeing how that goes. But really just beyond trying the beginner box, trying maybe one of your favorite organized play scenarios. I think if people aren't open to it, you're not gonna, you can't force them to try a new system. So try to be a good ambassador. And I don't know, unless the other two of you have anything to offer, that would be my approach.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Give them a little.
No, that's 100% my approach too. So
Yeah. Give them a
Unless
little
we
taste.
Right, unless we can get Dimension 20 to do a Pathfinder second edition, which we are trying. Every night.
I wish.
Yeah.
I so wish.
Someday.
Yeah.
Brennan Mulligan, if you're watching this, call me.
If you faint, he's watching.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a fan. Hello.
Okay, Iyengar, are you out there?
Hit us up, Dimension 20 people. Let us know.
We do have a lot of other, not to give Dimension 20 all the spotlight. We do have a lot of Pathfinder 2e shows and actual plays out there that you should check out. There are some really great teams doing really great work, even if they don't have the full, critical role treatment. There are a lot of great examples of how much fun Pathfinder can be at the table. So you should check those out.
Yes.
That's great advice. Great advice, Simone. Let's go on to Black Tiger 1969. When getting ready to run an adventure path, you recommend their reading of the player's guide to get started. I feel that it helps to set up a character that is more involved in the story. I assume they mean to have the players read the player's guide. Yes. We're all nodding here.
Yes, absolutely. The player's guide is going to give you the most information that they should have, and it's going to give you options and ideas. And I'm so sorry, I cut you right off, Jason. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, no, you didn't. No, I was just nodding.
Oh well, but yeah, no, it's super. The player's guide is super useful, and it's going to have all sorts of neat things for you. And I have found that it's pretty much whenever I have people who are like, "Oh, well, what should I know about this upcoming game?" It's in the player's guide. It's in the player's guide. Well, what's what classes should it's in the player's guide? Look at the player's guide. Look at it. Play what you want, but look at the player's guide.
Yeah. We put a lot of work into those. I mean, it's been a while since I've done one, but developers and editors and the layout team put a lot of work into making this product, which we are giving away for free. So we're doing it out of the love of our hearts and to help you get the best adventure path out of the adventure path you can get. So yeah, download them. Show them out. There comes to a point where maybe someone doesn't have time. There's to read through the whole thing, but there's always something in there, at least a chart or something quick that they can look at and really ground them into what kind of characters they might want to make. Anything you want to add to that, Simone?
No, I'm fully on board.
Fully on board. All right. All right. Saruva asks, how do you get over the quote-unquote perfect GM syndrome, where you get stuck thinking every encounter adventure should be a masterpiece, and then the session approaches, and then you have prepared nothing yet? Let's talk about GM psychology. How do you feel about running games, and how do you feel about yourself when you're done running games?
It's stressful. I see Shay ready to go. Go back to Shay.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I just have so much to say.
Do it.
Here's my thing. Perfect is the enemy of good. If you're sitting here trying to build out like the perfect encounter and the perfect session and the perfect role play, the perfect NPC, the perfect enemy, and you're never going to get anything on the plate. Like, perfect is the enemy of good. You need to get something out there. It's better to have half of a document than none of a document. And like, honestly, this is advice that I give people who are coming into freelancing and doing writing and stuff like that. Just get words on the page. Just write something. Just start somewhere. Don't sit here and try and be like, oh, I gotta be Matt Mercer. Oh, I gotta be Brendan Lee Mulligan. Oh, I gotta be Aubrey Iyengar. Like, again, like, they all started somewhere. Like, first of all, they all started somewhere. Second of all, one thing that when you're getting very stressed and you're like, I can't be Critical Role and I can't be Dimension 20 and I can't be Worlds Beyond Numbered and everything's like that. Those are professional actors.
Yep.
Take a breath. Give yourself a moment to continue on and be a person. Also, it's a person who just says, can I hug you? Yes, you can absolutely hug me if you see me in person.
Okay. Just to add on to that too, yeah, they also have editors. I mean, like video editors and sound editors and whatnot. That's why it looks as good and as polished as it is. We have word editors, which makes our stuff look as good and polished as it is. But when you're sitting down to sort of prep something, yeah, I mean, I can't really add anything to what Shay said. It's all great.
Yeah, Shay nailed it. I still feel the same way. Like, as I said, I'm running an AP for the first time. I started in March, so brand new to the long campaign GMing. And it's so stressful, even though it's like a bunch of my, closest friends. I want them to have an amazing time every time. And it does make preparing stressful. And I do kind of end the session exhausted, even though it's, 2.5 hours on a work night. But exactly, not to belabor the point, but not every session is going to be incredible, and probably it was better than you thought, And you can ask for feedback from your players too. Like, if you're in a group of friends, one of my GMs does like a debrief because we're specifically doing a setting playtest for second edition. And so we all, kind of come down from the session at the end by saying, like, here was a highlight for me. Potentially here's something that, like, I wish I had done differently, or we had, handled in a different way, or could do this way next time. So if you're really if you're in a group where it's comfortable for you to exchange feedback like that, ask for it. But otherwise, just being in the GM seat and doing it more is how you're going to get more comfortable with it.
More great advice that I am just going to let be and move on because I don't have anything else to add. Let's go on to Second Dawn, who is asking any ideas or tips for converting adventures and monsters to Pathfinder. This is more of a mechanical question this time. Let's see if we have any thoughts on what we want to do about. I'll just say here, when we talk about sort of like people coming in and doing freelance and making your own stuff, and then you're converting stuff for yourself. Start by looking at what already exists, and kind of you can crib abilities off of other creatures if they're this sort of similar, that kind of stuff. Adventures wise too, you can just sort of look at adventures that are sort of similar and how we do, a research system or mystery or a party ball or whatever. And feel free to just sort of borrow stuff that's already written if you need to convert something. I mean, you're already converting something that exists, right? So feel free to borrow something that already exists that's already in second edition. Any of you have any other thoughts on that?
I think that's a great answer. Yeah. And also, I think it's the maybe Game Mastery Guide and some of the bestiaries have information in the back on creating your own settings and monsters and stuff like that. So we do have material published, and I'm sorry I don't have exact page numbers for you, but check out Archives of Mythos, check out the books if you own them. There are sections in there on creating content for Pathfinder yourself, and that can be a great way to practice.
Let me see here. What page?
And for Starfinder, in Interstellar Species, I believe it is. I don't know why I'm looking over my bookshelf. All I can see is the Advanced Players Guide. It's just a habit. But I believe in Interstellar Species, there's a whole here's how you can take a fantasy alien species and turn it into something for Starfinder. So it helps with that.
Yep.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and the first Alien Archive just has monster creation rules and those are all you really need to create a monster from scratch. And then add out of those custom abilities to make it your own. Okay. K and a fox. Knafox. Since everyone has their own way, how do you prep for a game? We had this joke before we started, which was we prep for the game by panicking 5 minutes before the game starts. But for reals, I read what I've got. If I'm running a published adventure, read through that again. Read through the, specifically focusing on the stuff I'm pretty sure they're going to get to. If you're in the middle of a dungeon, you kind of know what the next 5 rooms are going to look like. If you're in the middle of some other investigation, you kind of know what the end point is. So you can sort of focus on that adventure. Beforehand, I've read all the whole things over, but when I'm prepping for my something that's not Pathfinder or is my own stuff, again, I'm taking notes, and then I'm probably winging it at least half the time.
Let's see. I mean, it depends on the game that I'm playing. I recognize this is a Paizo panel, but for my Pathfinder stuff, I'll typically, like Jason said, I'll read ahead and I'll be like, okay, where are we going? I play mostly, I think I play exclusively at this point in virtual tabletops. So, for my Mummy's Mask game, I've already got all my maps pre-laid out for the book that we're in, so I'm not really worried about that. I'll just mostly kind of look over it and be like, okay, I've already got the combat set up, where are they doing, what did they do last time and everything. For other games, like my current Vampire the Masquerade game and my Monster Hearts games, honestly, those are mostly homebrew. They're not written adventures. And I also do this with my homebrew Pathfinder games. I could just go off the vibes of what happened, how did it end last time? I'm okay, great. What it did last time? Okay, well, they wound up with a woman on their couch that they didn't know, and then she threw up a bunch of leaves. Okay, great. We're gonna pick up from there. We'll figure it out. So that's what I do.
Jacob, can we figure this out right now? I'm already intrigued. Let's abandon the panel, and you can run an adventure for Simone and I.
Yes.
Can't tell you, but it has to do with a cult and werewolves, and it's so much.
Fair enough.
My players are in the chat right now. I can't say anything else.
Well, we're gonna close this down. We don't need to stream this for everybody now. Simone, what about you? How do you prep?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've been a player in a couple different campaigns of Shay's, and would just like to say that yes, they are a fantastic GM. I prep by. I'm currently running a pre-written Paizo adventure. I read that through. I highlight it color coded if I'm starting in advance, so that I can have like the DCs that they need to hit in one color, and then like some dialogue or key information in another. Usually I am not that put together though, so I am reading it like 2 hours beforehand, like, okay, shoot, where are we going? I am, like we said before, using Foundry for that. So some other players and awesome people in the community put together the Strength of Thousands module. So a lot of the like nitty gritty work is done for me. The encounters are set up, the maps are in there, which is great. But otherwise, read ahead as far as you can, so you kind of have an idea of like where it's going, or if you're homebrewing, have a mental idea of where your adventure is going. And then I put together an outline either in like Google Docs or Scrivener or something that has kind of like maybe like I like to start with like a lore quote or something from the setting to kind of get us in the headspace. So I'll try to pull a quote for that. I call it the like video game loading screen, since half of my players are new to second edition. So if I don't have a lore thing, or in addition to lore, I'll share like a reminder on like, hey, remember you have hero points, or remember this is how taking cover works, just in case it might come up. And so we'll cover like a quick like rules reminder or lore setting. I like to ask like a character immersion question, which is something I shamelessly stole from a different jam of mine. And then I have my outline with like the key kind of story beats that I'm expecting us to hit. Again, I can get this level of prepared because it is a pre-written adventure. There's not a lot of different things they're going to do at this stage. As we get into more of the adventure, it'll be a little more sandboxy. But if you have the time and are so inclined, you can get real nerdy about it. But there is definitely a level of, oh my god, I worked late and everybody's, my DoorDash food is arriving and I have 10 minutes to prepare. Yeah. I'm just going to skim this and wing it. You just get more comfortable with that as you go.
That actually reminds me that I've been what I've been doing like right before every one of my Outlaws of Alkenstar questions is to write a previously on, so that I know what happened last session and all the players kind of know what happened last session. We play every 2 weeks, so it definitely helps to sort of get everyone in the same headspace. And then I write it in character, of course, because I am a huge weirdo. It goes previously on Outlaws of Alkenstar.
Yes.
And then I do 3
gunshots. I want to be in your game.
Oh, okay. And then we do 3 gunshot sound effects because I also run on Foundry. Pew pew pew. And everyone is like forgets that Foundry has sound. And it's like, this Foundry was too loud whenever. That's a great way to start.
The Discord, the new soundboard that they've added with like the quacks and the crickets and stuff. We got to add a pew pew sound to that.
Yeah, pew pew.
Yeah. What I need to do in my Mummy's Mask game is the blah, 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 like air horn noises, because that is the noise that Simone and all of my players make whenever they get critical hits. And it's like,
that's
okay,
right.
thanks, go.
Yes.
Totally original idea. No one has ever done that before. It was all me.
Never.
I love it. Speaking of preparing from Yoda Ate My Head, our very own Mark Moreland, probably mostly for Shay, though, what specific advice would you have to give people running organized play content? Is it any different from what we just said?
Slightly. Read your scenario thoroughly. Read your scenario more than once, probably 2 or 3 times at the very least. Understand, you'll read the back area where it says organized play, and it's like, here's your challenge points and your treasure table and things like that. But also, take a deep breath. Realize that nobody expects like a theatrical, release at their organized play table. But yeah, read it thoroughly, understand what's going on, make sure that you know where the plot lines are going. Some of our, especially like higher level scenarios, can be a little bit more confusing, and they can have like alternate plot lines and things like that. Like, for example, in 4-11 Prisoners of the Electric Castle, we have like, I'm not going to give like a spoiler, but like we have two different ways that it could end, and if you didn't pre-read that scenario, you're going to hit that point and you're going to be like, oh no, what's going on here? So make sure you pre-read, make sure you take notes, make sure you're like, okay, I understand how the plot is moving forward. And if you don't understand, if you're confused or anything, on our forums, there's lots of GM threads. You can ask in any of our, online lodges and everything across Discord. Pretty much we have areas everywhere where you can ask questions and everything. So you can understand, like, okay, here's how this works and here's how this moves forward.
Great. Simone, you want to add anything to that?
Nope. Sounds great to me.
Fair enough. Speaking of higher level, Sarcastic Prose has a question about, with so many people, myself included, not me, the question asker, of course, new to GMing Pathfinder, how much time did it take you to feel comfortable tackling the higher level APs that begin at 11? Higher level stuff. Have any of you run any higher level stuff yet? At least in second edition.
Not official content. My homebrew game started at level 5 and then went up to level 15. My brain is slightly out of my head. I believe they stopped at level 15. But like, it was mostly pretty straightforward. A lot of the big numbers and everything. Yeah, okay. David the Grey in chat, who was in my game, confirmed. Yeah, we stopped at level 15.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly at that point, like, the numbers are on your players to keep track of and everything. Also, again, I play on VTT exclusively, so Foundry keeps track of everything. Really, running high level is no different than running lower level. In fact, I find running lower level stuff a little bit harder than running high level, because it's so easy to kill for level 1. It's so easy. But yeah, that's the way I feel.
Okay. Yeah, I've run some high level first edition Pathfinder stuff. And I definitely have played at least one or two sort of like 11 to or higher level sort of like one shots essentially. And I found that it doesn't run much differently, right? Players are for the most part, it's going to be more a little more onus on the players who have more stuff that they can choose to do, right? They're going to have some feats that let them trick out here and there and what have you. But in terms of what the APs, especially running a pre-written adventure, a lot of that stuff is going to be taken into account for you. What players are might be capable of, and how the adventure might handle that, and that kind of thing. So, but if you're not comfortable, I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting at 11th level, but it's not necessarily going to blow your mind. But take as much time as you want to get comfortable. Run a bunch of first level to fifth level short campaigns until you feel like you've got sort of the gears of Pathfinder Second Edition under your feet, and then go wild, have fun, do whatever you love. And he said, "Simone, you haven't actually run that far yet, but what do you have anything you're looking forward to at high levels? Because you're running Strength of Thousands."
Yeah, nothing like mechanic specific. I mean, there's some content that I have, forbidden knowledge of that I can't speak to that's coming out that I'm very excited to release so that my players and myself can take advantage of that. I think it'll work well in our story. But other than that, just narratively, I edited a lot of Strength of Thousands, and so I know what's coming up, and I'm very excited story-wise for us to get there. But I am kind of learning at the same time as my players. This is the first second edition AP that I've run, and several of them are new to either second edition or Pathfinder altogether. So I'm excited, like, as a group, for us to get into it and to get out of level 1 and start having a few more things to do. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of personal to each GM, how much experience you have and how quickly you pick things up and, feel comfortable with it. But I'd definitely say, like, start with at least a couple lower level, org play scenarios or what have you. And then it's not going to be a whole lot different once you get into higher level stories. And we do have some good ones. I just finished editing Stolen Fate, so we have some fun high level stuff coming out there too if you're looking for pre-written APs.
Terrific. Awesome. All right, back to the questions. Army Navy Jedi, who is our friendly Paizo social media manager. I had no idea. Hello. Any good fiction reading to inspire GMs for homebrew or descriptive scenarios?
John, this is such a dangerous question to ask me.
All right, settle in, everybody.
How long have you got? No, for real, you should come find me in the Discord. Actually, in my AMA, I've already posted my now famous spreadsheet of Simone's favorite books to read in sci-fi and fantasy. So I would say let's talk about that offline or off the panel, because I will just talk for an hour. But there is so much good fantasy out there that I think you can take a lot of inspiration from. I will say I have built Harrow Hark from Gideon the Ninth, the Locktomb series, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and it's rad, so that's a good one, but I will cut myself off there before I talk for an hour about books.
I can't listen to Simone talk about Harrow the Ninth because I've got the book sitting on my nightstand and I've got to pick it up and start reading it and everything. So.
No spoilers, but like seriously, take a day off and just power through it. My roommate is reading it right now, and I'm like evil glee over here.
As for like how I describe things, I'm very I take a lot of inspiration for describing scenes and fantasy stuff from Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket, and from Douglas Adams. I like to be very sarcastic and snarky and everything like that. I recently reread a Douglas Adams entry that's like, he was like, if you took David Bowie and put another David Bowie on top of another David Bowie and on top of another David Bowie, that is to say he was tall and he gangled. So that's, I kind of like being snarky and sassy like that. But as for like specific things that I read for homebrew description, I really like the Stephen King like high fantasy stuff and the way that he talks about things there. I get a lot of inspiration from like the Dark Tower series and Eyes of the Dragon and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I do.
Did you read Fairy Tale, Jay?
No.
A fairly recent Stephen King. I don't think it's set in the same dark fantasy world as like the Gunslinger stuff, but it's definitely a fantasy Stephen King sort of situation.
Well, check it out. I just recently finished rereading Nosferatu, so.
Oh, Joe Hill.
It's so good.
Shay, you and I are practically the same person. You talk about Douglas Adams, you talk about Joe Hill. We gotta hang out more often. That's all I'm thinking here. I just fairly recently finished reading The City of Brass by S.R. Chakraborty, and that was lovely and a great way to look at sort of a new way to look at gin and that kind of stuff. I just read a lot, basically. Try to read as much as you can. Try to read as many diverse authors as you can get your hands on. Read science fiction, read fantasy, read romance, read whatever but read what you like. But also just, I'm sure there's something you'll be able to find in any genre that you'll enjoy. Nothing specific, but everything.
But in addition to that, Simone, as a nonfiction thing, you have resources for like writing diverse characters, don't you? Like for things like that. Yes, you should. I don't remember the names of them. I'm so sorry, but like those would be really great, so that we can avoid pitfalls of describing people who are not, cis white heterosexual people. So also read things written by diverse authors and whatever the name is of the thing that Simone is going to suggest, because the name has flown right out of my head.
There's a bunch, and I will see if I can grab that without checking out from the panel and put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'll put it in my Discord AMA afterwards. I have a very lengthy resource on that as well, because as an editor, that's something that's really important to myself and our whole team. But the main organization that I recommend is called Writing the Other. They do fantastic, classes and seminars and like weeks-long programs for writers. And they do offer a lot of scholarships if finances are an issue for you. There's also the Conscious Language Style Guide, which is a great starting place if you're trying to learn more about lenses other than your own in your writing. But yeah, making sure that the authors that you're reading are not homogenous and come from a lot of backgrounds is going to make you a stronger writer and make your writing more accessible to a wider audience as well. So yeah, thank you, Shay. That's a great thing to bring up.
Yeah.
Great. Not a question, but I do want to just sort of take a step back on something that we said earlier to remind everyone. Also, Dragons and Things Network, who is also has we're talking about the podcasts and AP shows for 2E. So also check them out. Let's go to this discussion. Was that just a laugh? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just
Anyway,
laughing.
sorry. Fair enough. I thought you were going to say something. Let's move on to Captain Relic's question about if a player wants to do things that are slightly changed or slightly maybe from a another system or whatever. How do you handle that? For instance, to sort of like basically something like 2E's prestidigitation doesn't let you make your eyes sparkle, or fun, harmless, illusionary effect. So, like, do you when a player wants to describe the effects of their magic missile? This is actually a real loaded question. Do you let them? It seems like that's a leading question. I feel like the judge is going to ding me on that.
Um, Let me put it this way. When it comes to my home games, yes, I will let them, describe how their prestidigitation works and how their magic missile works and everything like that. If it is a spell that has like a specific like prestidigitation has specific, like, you can cook or you can tidy or you can do things like this. If I'm in an organized play game, I am going to go by the book of what that spell says. And it's because organized play runs a very specific way. We run very rules as written and everything like that. But yeah, if I'm in a home game, it's not as big of a deal to me. I'm going to let you kind of do whatever you want. But my organized play things are very like strict, and I'm very much like, no, we're going by what the spell says, and if there are questions about it, we can handle it after this session. But like for things in my home game, I'm much more flexible.
Yes, that's a great point because organized play has those sort of I don't want to say strictures because that sounds too strict, but homebrew for me too. Like, yeah, there's like little things that aren't going to necessarily affect mechanics. I'm pretty lenient on that effect. Simone, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with both of you. I'm seeing in the chat that it looks like they're clarifying just for the sake of fun, like not
Sure,
about, just whatever. I'm a big fan of sensory details. And so, like both of you were saying, if it's not an organized play game where, we're reporting this for credit and we're at home, like you and your friends get to play this how you want to, that goes for every system. So if there's something that makes it more fun for you, like I'm not coming up with a reason why you shouldn't do that. One of the games that I played in was in Starfinder, our Fly Free or Die adventure path, and I wanted to play specifically a Vasca android. And one of the things is like you lost your natural claws, or you lost dark vision because you had natural claws. And I was like, but why would they build an android without dark vision? And my GM, who was Leo Glass, former managing editor of Paizo, was like, yeah, that's totally fine with me. And like, when am I ever going to use, I'm not going to abuse any of those. Like, we know each other as players and colleagues. And so I think definitely. If you're in a group where everybody's on the same page, everybody has the same goals to have fun, and they're not trying to break the game, make it sparkly if you want to. I think that's fine. Just it's all dependent on the people you're playing with and the environment that you're playing in. So have fun with it. Yeah.
Make it sparkly. That's our new motto.
The Skittermanders have heard they will be arriving shortly.
Oh boy! Oh, it's please do not send us glitter bombs.
No.
To sort of maybe like turn this on its head a little bit for Captain Relic. One thing to do if we got sort of new players to ask the question, hey, what is your what smell happens when you cast that spell? That's completely sort of sensory. What do your magic missiles look like? Just to kind of get people involved and help them sort of specify their character a little bit. All right, we're running close on time, so let's do maybe one, maybe two more of these questions. We're almost at the end here, and let me find the next one. I'm looking at the name of this, and it's Enitexic scientist, something scientist with an X. and this is sort of related to what we just said a little bit. In a general sense, how do you handle supernatural powers with narrative effects but no mechanical implementation, like basic telekinesis for the telekinetic psychic, or do you stick to the rules, or do you add anything like that? It's sort of similar to what we just said. So, anything else you want to add to that specific? All right. Yeah, I think we answered that one. Let's hit the next one. I'm going to modify this next question from Divine Highland a little bit. I've heard a lot of you talking about other systems. I've run other systems besides Pathfinder Second Edition. Do you have any sort of like best practices for keeping those systems kind of like separate in your brain space? So you're not accidentally thinking of a rule that's from Monster Hearts, for instance. I know it unlikely that a rule from Monster Hearts would be applicable for a rule for Pathfinder Second Edition, but maybe you're playing some things that are a little more similar to that. Do you give yourself note cards? Do you keep your GM screen handy, even though you're playing virtually? I know I keep my physical GM screen handy when I'm running, even when I'm running on Foundry.
I mean, if I'm running Pathfinder, I've got Nethos open. That's my thing.
Yeah.
If I'm running World of Darkness, I've got my books open. If I'm running Monster Hearts, I've got the cheat sheet open so that I can, look at everything. If you've played Monster Hearts, you know exactly what I'm talking about with the cheat sheet. Yeah, I keep my resources up, and that's how I make sure that I keep things distinct.
Great, terrific.
Yeah, I would say the same for me. Yeah, same here. I don't get to GM as much as I would like to. I'm in a couple games, which is great, and we only have so much time, so I don't do a lot of switching right now. But I agree, I have Nethys up, and my players are also helpful. The ones who are familiar with the rules, and I kind of treat it collaboratively. So players will help me out in whatever system we're running. If there's something that one of us forgot, it's a team effort. So yeah, GM screen. If there's a couple things I know are going to be coming up in the system, like one I had a lot where like searching or hiding and taking cover was going to be big, I like put those in the outline document that I prepared ahead of time, so I had them to refer to. But yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully that's helpful.
No, that's good. That's great. I think some of these other questions we're not going to have time to get to. So if you want to pop into, I'm going to volunteer at least my AMA. If you want to pop in and ask me one of those questions, both of you are doing AMAs too. If you want to, if you're nodding, that's great. Pop into Shay's or Simone's AMAs and see if either of them has any sort of great advice. But I do want to end on a final, hopefully fun question for all of us here. And I am going to make this up as I am talking because I didn't think of this beforehand. And so, if there is, what's your favorite kind of like genre of thing? Even if getting specific as in fantasy, this kind of thing. Do you like heists? Do you like mysteries? What's your most favorite thing to run as a GM?
Ooh, I like mysteries. But I also how do I word this? I also like death matches, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like all of the players are like, oh, there's a big like death contest and we all have to fight, and eventually we will have to fight our friends, and how do we not fight our friends and continue on? I like doing stuff like that. I think the melodrama is really cool. So
yeah.
Battle Royale, that's the word for it.
Battle Royale, love it.
Nice. Great question. I don't know for me if I have one specific like home, like story home that I've found yet. I need to GM a bit longer, but I really enjoy just like more wilderness than urban settings, I think. So I love like like nature-based kind of adventures. Howl of the Wild that we had a panel on recently, it's coming out next year, is kind of written in like a field guide, like naturalist's field guide almost. And I got to write and edit for that and had so much fun and can't wait to put that into some of my jamming. So I think it's things like that where you're like interacting with the larger world around you, a little bit, elements of mystery, like colossal, powerful things that are way out of your class, and how do you kind of engage with those? That's at least where I'm at right now. And then in Starfinder, everything, like all the xenobiology and the space exploration, I'm a sucker for that.
And it's probably not surprised that I like goofy weirdness. All right, so not gonna establish on that. Let's wrap it up. I've been Jason Keeley, Starfinder senior. I've forgotten what I've done. Senior developer for the Pathfinder rules and lore team. You can find me on all the things here at the bottom of the screen, and again, come hit me up at our AMA. Shay, is there any place anyone else can find you?
You can find me on Twitter. Sometimes you can find me on Twitch. I'm always at Spells and Sugar. Yeah, I'm Shay. I'm one of the Pathfinder Society developers. You can also come to my AMA and ask me all sorts of GMing questions.
Terrific. Simone?
Yep, my period of visibility will now end. I will go back to being an invisible editor whose work you will never notice, but believe me, you are very glad that my incredible team and colleagues are doing the work that we are. Yes, you will be able to still find me on Discord, Twitter, Versa Major. And thank you all for asking these great questions. It was really fun to hang out with everyone.
Yes, it was great talking with the two of you, and well, let's continue to talk more when this is all done. We're gonna go play an adventure now, play a game, the three of us, and I hope the rest of you have a great PaizoCon, whatever you're playing that. But that's the end of our streaming panels, and I will talk to you all later.
Well,
thanks, y'all.